Hello everyone, I'm Kingsley, and today I'm going to talk about how do numbers deceive us. Nowadays, when you browse social media or internet, you can always see a lot of data, which is very convincing. They may contain a lot of big numbers, let's say, for example, something accounting for 90%, which makes you strongly believe in something. Let's look at an example here. It is a data come from ByteDance, which is a big company, the creator of TikTok. It said teams that use emotional leave see their efficiency increased by 18% and their turnover rate dropped by 12%. It looks perfect, right? Seems this strategy is perfect. Every firm should use this kind of strategy, should provide emotional leave to their employees. However, is it really as wonderful as it looks like? Maybe we can examine the information in more detail. Firstly, let's look at the first half of the data. Teams that use emotional leave see their efficiency increase by 18%. Firstly, let me ask a question. How to calculate efficiency? Total work divided by working time, right? And what does emotional leave mean? Originally, maybe you work 20 days a month, but after maybe 5 days emotional leave, you only have 15 days for working. So your working time actually decreases. And we know every employees in companies will have their own KPI, which means they have fixed amount of tasks to finish, maybe in 1 month or 1 year. So the total work they have to done is fixed. It remains unchanged. So what will be the results? With the less working time and constant total work, of course their efficiency will increase because they have to finish those work in shorter time period. But is it really beneficial for operation of a firm? No. Oppositely, it may increase the stress on their employees. And we can look at the second half of the data. The turnover rate dropped by 12%. Actually, a lot of factors can influence the turnover rate, not only the emotional leave. For example, higher salary. So employees are less willing to leave their job, to leave the company, and also like reduced company layoffs. Both of those factors could cause this consequence, not only an emotional leave. Actually, nowadays, any point or any opinion can find a data to prove. Here is an old but silly example. The larger your shoe size, the better your test scores. It sounds really unreasonable, right? Yes, it is unreasonable, but it's real. Here is the chart. It is a real data. But what is missing here? Firstly, the age of people associated with their shoe size. Of course, the shoe size of children would be smaller, and the shoe size for adults would be bigger. And people's aptitude would improve with their age. So definitely, the average test scores for adults would be higher than children's. So what's missing from a chart is just as important as what is shown. This case vividly shows the one-sidedness of the data. So maybe we can go further to a real-world case. Here is a country called Ireland. There is an interesting phenomenon happened in that country. The GDP of the island is extremely high, which is 577.4 billion US dollar, ranking 24th in the world. But for another measure of a country's economic output, GNI, for this country is much lower, only 419.2 billion US dollar, ranking 35th in the world. Why there is such a huge difference between those two measures of the country, for this country? If we want to know the answer, we must firstly know what is GDP and GNI. GDP is the gross domestic product. It measures the total output within the island. And GNI is the gross national income. it measures the total income received by Irish citizens and firms. So the main difference between them is GDP emphasizes where production happens. All of the output generated within the island, in the territory of Ireland, would be counted in GDP. But GNI emphasizes who earns the income. All of the income that earned by Irish citizens would be counted, wherever abroad or inside the country, but all of the income that received by foreign firms, but within the island, will not be counted. Therefore, we can summarize their relationship into an equation. GNI equals to GDP plus net income abroad. And Ireland has very low corporation tax rate, which makes it attracted a lot of multinational companies. But the revenue of those foreign firms mainly flows out. Irish citizens rarely earns those income. So that's why there is such a huge difference between Irish GDP and GNI. By this data, by this case, we can see that if you use two sets of standards to measure Irish GDP, you can get two completely different results. This largely influences people's judgment to Irish GDP, to Irish economy. So, in those cases, we can already see the fraudulence of the data. We must acknowledge that questioning and analyzing data has become a necessary skills in the modern world gradually. One of the biggest problems with data science today is it has created a litany of misinformation, all in the name of science. And knowing how do numbers deceive us has become essential. And that's the meaning of this speech, to avoid the misleading of data. Thank you, everyone.